You find us here in Drymen. We're heading back out onto the West Highland Way to answer a question about the Conic Hill Conundrum. When is it better to climb and when is it better to bypass? Today we're covering one of the early stages of the route, the section from Drymen to Balmaha. This part of the trail covers approximately 7 miles and will take you through a mix of forest paths, open moorland and one of the most iconic parts of the trail, Loch Lomond. Now, as you head out of Drymen, you'll eventually be faced with a decision. After a gentle stretch through Drymen forest, the West Highland Way splits into 2 distinct routes. The first, the more popular ascent of Conic Hill, which is more challenging, but you are rewarded at the top with spectacular views over Loch Lomond and its islands. But there is another option. For those of you looking for a more relaxed experience, or just to avoid some tricky weather, there's the bypass route that avoids Conic Hill. Well, you miss the summit and its views. This route is much easier on the legs, sticking to the lower, more sheltered section, which takes you along and still offers the beautiful views as you get down closer to Balmaha. It's perfect for the hikers who want to save their energy or just avoid a steep climb. Whichever route you choose, your journey will end in the lovely village of Balmaha, nestled on the eastern shores of Loch Lomond, where you can grab a bite to eat, rest up as you prepare for the next section of your adventure on the West Highland Way. So whether you're in the mood for a challenging climb or a gentler path, this section of the trail has something for everyone. So stay tuned as we take you along the bypass route and explore this quieter section of the West Highland Way. So it's coming up to 10:15, and as you can see just down there ahead of me, already we have lots of people heading along what will be their second day of the trail. Now, I guarantee you, most of these guys ahead of us will be heading up and over the top of Conic Hill. And very shortly, as we exit Drymen forest, we're going to be turning left and heading down Creatty Hall Road and down to Milton of Buchanan, where we'll start the road section along and into Balmaha. As we travel along through Drymen forest, I'm going to give you 5 reasons why you might choose to take the bypass rather than the steep ascent over Conic Hill. Number 1, avoiding steep climbs. The route up over Conic Hill can be quite challenging, especially if you're carrying a full 7-day backpack with everything you need for those days. The bypass route is lower and a little bit less strenuous. Number 2, bad weather. In poor weather conditions, the exposed sides of Conic Hill can be a miserable place to be, and if the cloud's low enough, you're not going to get the views out over Loch Lomond and its islands. So in that situation, I would take the bypass route. Number 3, tiredness and injury. If you're feeling tired or fatigued, then the climb up over Conic Hill is going to exacerbate things. It's going to make it worse. If you're carrying an injury or you're just feeling fatigued after your day one, I would opt to head down the hill and take the bypass route. And on that cue, we're here. So when you reach the barrier across the road, you'll come to a four-way junction. Now, that is the route up to Conic Hill, and you'll be looking out for this signpost. As it says, Balmaha via Conic Hill, 3 3/4 miles, but where we're going today is the Balmaha bypass route, which is only 2.5 miles. So let's go and investigate this bypass route, which should get us into Balmaha quicker. It's a much easier path and you don't have Conic Hill to climb over the top of. And I'll give you reason number 4 why you should perhaps choose this as the route for you. Reason number 4, it's far less crowded. That group that was walking ahead of me have all just headed up to head over Conic Hill. If you do decide to head up Conic Hill, expect to be joined by bus parties, and there's quite often they arrive into Balmaha, big bus loads of people, and they head up Conic Hill from the Balmaha side. So when you get onto the summit, you're going to be joined, especially in the summertime, by possibly hundreds of people. This bypass route is going to be much more serene, much quieter, and I don't expect to see anyone except for maybe the odd local dog walker. And reason number 5, saving energy for later on in your adventure. Now, Conic Hill is just another part of the trail that if you want, you can avoid. If you're not as fit as perhaps you'd like to be, then this is your opportunity to save energy for later on. If you've done any research, you'll have heard about this infamous section on the north end of Loch Lomond that's a bit more challenging. Now, that's going to be probably your day 3. So if you're looking to save a bit of energy for that section, and it's not as bad as people say, perhaps just miss out Conic Hill on day 2. Save energy for later on. So those are just 5 reasons why you might decide to sack off Conic Hill and give your legs a break on your day 2. So part of my reason for filming this vlog today was that I'm an absolute West Highland Way addict. I can't get enough of this trail, but I am aware that this on day 2 for some might just be too much. If any of you are like me, you'll have gone onto YouTube and you'll have watched the multitude of West Highland Way videos that show you all the sections of the route. And what I discovered was very few of the videos ever cover this bypass route, which some people, whether it's down to illness or fatigue, might want to just avoid the climb and descent back into Balmaha over Conic Hill. Now, well, yes, you're not going to get those views out over Loch Lomond from that high vantage point on Conic Hill. This is going to give you an alternative view of Loch Lomond that you wouldn't see otherwise. So, yeah, it's shorter, it's easier on the knees, and it's going to give you a different perspective of this section of the West Highland Way. So ahead of us, you're seeing the beginnings of Creatty Hall Road, which is going to take us down into Milton of Buchanan. If you've ever driven down to Balmaha, you will have passed through Milton of Buchanan, although because it's only houses there, you might never have stopped, you might never even have noticed it. The road along to Balmaha is quite a busy wee B-class road. Part of the reason for that is the tourist hotspot that is Balmaha. You've got Conic Hill, you've got the wonderful Oak Tree Inn, all the shops, and of course you've got the ferry over to Inchcailloch. You can get on the loch there with your canoe or paddleboard. Further along you've got Milrocky Bay, you've got Rowerdennan. You've also got the main car park for Ben Lomond, one of Scotland's most popular mountains. So there's a lot of people using that road to travel along. And I get it, that could put some people off. If you're looking to be away from the hustle and bustle of general life, which cars bring, this maybe isn't the path for you. You are going to be travelling along the side of the road for about a mile until you reach Balmaha, and you are going to be in the company of all the vehicles that use the road beside you. If you're looking for a more quiet, serene walk, then maybe Conic Hill's it. although you are going to have to contend with the noise of your own huffing and puffing as you climb up, and then the groaning and moaning as you head down that steep ascent down into Balmaha. Would I suggest that this route is just for beginners starting off on their long distance walking trails? Yes and no. If you're an inexperienced hiker and you're looking to take things easy on your body, then I would say yes. However, there's a caveat to that. Parts to avoid and parts to leave in. If you've watched that video in my series of the West Highland Way, you'll have met Robert Marshall. Now, Robert has done a phenomenal number of trips along the West Highland Way, and the day that I spoke to him on that video, Robert was missing out Conic Hill and he was coming down this way. Now, this is a guy who, if memory serves me rightly, he's done it well over 70 times. I wouldn't suggest Robert Marshall is a West Highland Way beginner, but yet he chose to take the bypass route. You could too. From here on in, we've got the company of the B837, which is going to take us all the way along and into Balmaha. For some, that might be a little bit boring, but I can tell you something for nothing. It's going to be so much easier on the legs. There's no climb, the road is flat, the path along it is well appointed, and you're going to find it so much simpler, as I say, if you're carrying an injury. So as we head through Milton Buchanan, you can already see the traffic joining us along this road. As I say, it is appointing quite a lot of very touristy areas along the shores of Loch Lomond. So we expect to be joined by all the traffic. Now, you're not going to feel as connected to the natural countryside of Scotland as you travel along this route, certainly not on this section. But on the upside, your legs are going to really thank you when you stop for lunch in Balmaha, because the paths, as you can see behind me, are well paved. If you're carrying a heavy weight on your back, or even if you're doing baggage transfer, this could be the route that makes your day that little bit more enjoyable, depending on your levels of fitness and depending on any injuries you might be carrying. I've yet to use this route as part of my West Highland Way trips, but having done it and having seen how simple and straightforward it is, it's certainly one I would consider if the weather was bad. And as I get older, and maybe I'm not so able to get up and down Conic Hill, maybe that could be another reason why I might consider in future years adding this section onto my day 2. Check out this house. It's not often you see a house with its own golf course. Must be nice to have money, eh? So just as we pass Gartfairn Farm, you're getting great views down towards Loch Lomond. And if we look over to the right, you can see the big imposing lump that is Conic Hill. And I don't know if you'll make it out on the GoPro, but there are already people standing up on the top of there. Maybe those guys that we saw walking ahead of us going through Garaband Forest. Now, I know some of you who are planning on doing the West Highland Way will use YouTube as your source, not just of information, but for inspiration. And I hope that my series of videos has been of some use. I know that some of you, and congratulations to you, have managed to finish the West Highland Way and have been in touch to say that you found the videos not just informative, but really useful in the planning of your trip. If you have found any of the videos on the Red Man Walking channel of use to you, please consider sharing them on to other people that you know who may be wanting to take on this epic challenge of doing 96 miles from Mulgai up to Fort William. It really does make a difference to me to know that, that the videos I'm creating are of some use to you and are helping you to plan your own epic adventure. We are back into bramble season again. Look at these. Oh, they look so juicy. Sadly, I'll not be eating those ones because they're far too close to the road. And even with the advent of electric cars and low emission fuels, they're still going to be covered in diesel and petrol fumes, so yeah, I would avoid those ones. Wait until you're further along Loch Lomond side away from the roads and enjoy the bounty that's no doubt going to be down the bottom there. Just outside Milton the Buchanan, you'll find that the paths change from those well-paved, well-pointed paths to these wee kind of dirt tracks along the side. Now, just be aware, the traffic is rattling by you, and if you get a bus coming past with the big wind mirrors, you might just have to duck in a little bit. But just keep your wits about you. The path's off the road. You should be safe enough. As I near the end point of this trip for today, I wanted to talk to you about a little bit of kit that I picked up recently. This is the Serenity Designs hoodie, which if you watch Liam from A Good Bloke Outdoors, and if you haven't seen him, I can thoroughly recommend him. He's quite an interesting chap to watch. Liam loves these hoodies, and after watching him I thought I'll go and check these out. It's another little bit of birthday money spent. Now I get it, it gives off a bit of the Elmo vibes, especially in the red man walking red. And my granny would have said you can spit peas through it. If you've been watching Paul Messner, he's been talking recently about the string vest tops as an alternative to a base layer. This works in a similar sort of way, but has a kind of fluffy wooliness built into it that means it's really, really warm to wear. I had it on our trip to Mull recently, and under a Gore-Tex jacket it was actually too warm, so this has been a perfect test for it today, and I have to say it's left me feeling really comfortable. The temperature today is between, I think it was 6 and 10 degrees, so, you know, ideal for walking along in, and because it's holy, it's venting off any excess heat that I have. So yeah, this is the Serenity Designs hoodie. Worth a wee look. And this isn't a paid sponsorship. I did buy this myself. So we've got the oak tree inn coming into view at the end of the road here. If you were walking with a group and you've decided to take the lower path, this is the point where you're going to meet up with the rest of your party. It's been a relatively easy wee walk. I haven't felt any strain or pain, and it's one that I can thoroughly recommend. Now that we've reached the hustle and bustle of the village of Balmaha, I'm going to end the vlog here. This has been the Conic Hill Conundrum. Hopefully, if you're planning on doing this epic trail from Mulgai up to Fort William, today's vlog will have helped you make a small decision on whether you take the route over Conic Hill or take the slightly easier route down and along the road into Balmaha. If you've enjoyed what you've been watching and you've enjoyed this series on the West Highland Way, please consider liking and subscribing and share it with others who are considering doing the same. And in the meantime, all that remains for me to say is go and create your own adventures, and we'll see you on the next one.